have all your props and all your things, feel free to get started on your back for this practice. And again, 2 blocks or 2 sturdy books or a strap. And again, I'll post the playlists or suggested playlists in the chat space as well, if you'd like it. And if you want to turn your video on, hi Yvonne. I can't hear you, but hello. It's a small class, so just two today. But if you want to turn on your screen, I do give feedback. Have your props nice and handy. We're gonna come all the way down onto your back. And as you come onto your back, just come to a Shavasana position. So as you start on your back, really come into a position where you feel at ease and where you can really start to feel just a sense of being kind of in almost a place of relaxation. So turn your palms up and then see if you can really rotate your biceps a little bit more, your triceps a little bit back and down. So there's an action of spreading the collarbones across the front of the chest. There's an action of really dropping the back of the shoulder blades down and in as you release the back down. And then really start to notice the front of your pelvis. So you can really open up the pelvis by really allowing the big toe mounds to splay out towards the corners of the mat, really finding a little bit more opening of the thigh or an external rotation of the thigh and the hip. And then just start to draw an awareness from the crown of the head all the way down to your feet. And then from the feet all the way up to the crown of your head. And then just take a moment to take a breath, maybe letting go of your day or maybe letting go of something that you're anticipating later in the day. Take a deep full breath, inhale through the nose, and then open and part the lips, let it out with a big sigh. And so today we're going to be really kind of focusing on this area around the pelvis and this area around the shoulder girdle. So start to bring your awareness to maybe something that you want to open and release. Maybe it's a physical body part. Maybe you've been feeling just a transition as we move into from Memorial Day, as we start to think about summer. Maybe just letting go of any expectations. Maybe it's a mental opening to something. And then set your intention for the practice. Start by imagining maybe one word. Maybe it's simply just one part of the body. Where do you need to open? Maybe create a little bit more space right now in this moment. And then set that intention with your breath. Take a deep breath in through the nose. Open, exhale out through the mouth. And then right away, take your hands, open the arms out to a T, bend your knees, set your feet onto the mat. And then drop the knees over to the left to start. And I like to actually pick up my left hip and just kind of rock it a little bit closer to the right side. So 2 choices here. You can have the legs a little bit more staggered, or you can stack the knees, one on top of the other. So just see what feels better in the body in this moment. If you want to stretch the neck, get knees over towards your right hand. But keep the right palm turned up so there's a little bit of an opening of the shoulder. So you can open up the armpit, opening up across the collarbones. There's that spreading action, but also creating space through the torso. And then so you can find a little bit more space through the sides of the torso. Really lengthen as you breathe in. Twist a little bit deeper as you breathe out. And then option these next 2 breaths to go a little bit deeper. Maybe you take the left hand on top of the right thigh, giving yourself just a little bit more of a self-adjustment to allow yourself to get a little bit deeper into the pose. And then linger for 1 more breath. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, let it out through the mouth. If you took the hand on top of the thigh, just release the arms back out to a T. Set the feet back onto the mat, and then just allow the low back to rest for a moment here. And then switch sides. Scoot your hips a little bit to the left, drop your knees over to the right. And then again, take the same variation that you did on the first side. Knees can either be staggered or stacked. If you want to stretch the neck on this side, turn your gaze away from the knees to look over the left hand. Turn your left hand up to open up through the armpit and then widen across the collarbones. Really feel your tip of your right collarbone and the tip of your left collarbone. See as you open the arms a little bit wider, that creates a little bit more space. And then just like we did on the first side, if you want to go deeper, pick up your right hand, place it on top of the left thigh, giving yourself a little bit of a self-adjustment. So one of the things I've been really missing lately is human touch, right? Besides my family. So as I start to explore teaching virtually, I'll also kind of explore learning how to teach yourself how to adjust yourself a little bit more so that you can still benefit from having those physical adjustments in your yoga practice. And then stay for one more breath. Take a deep, full breath in. Exhale, let the breath out. Take your arms back out to a T, and then roll onto your back again. Set your feet down, and then you can take your hands, lift your feet up, take your hands behind the thighs. If you want a little bit of movement, you're ready to move. Rock forward and back, or roll to one side. But meet me in a Sukhasana. I'm going to take my torso to turn back to face you, and then just take one ankle in front of the other. And then take your hands just next to your hips, and then really notice what's in front of you, notice what's behind you, what's to the left, and then what's to the right. And then add the breath with that. As you inhale, breathe up, down, left, right, front, and back. And then exhale, feel like you're returning back to yourself at the center. Reach both arms all the way up. Flip the palms up, reach the arms up, but keep the gaze forward. And then rotate the torso to the left, and then take your right hand on top of your left knee. Really fit it into the knee, and then take your left hand back and behind you. And then start to turn your right shoulder a little bit more back in front of you, and then turn your left shoulder back. Root your sits bones down, and then see if you can really turn the gaze over the left shoulder a little bit more. Find the back tip of the right shoulder blade, and then see if you can turn the tip of your right shoulder blade to open your left collarbone a little bit more, finding the center of the chest, and then allow that to turn you a little bit more. Keep looking over your left shoulder, but perhaps use your right eye to look back. So there's this really action of getting around yourself. And then reach your left hand straight up, turn back to face the front, take your left hand on top of your right knee, and then turn to the right. Take your right hand back and behind you. So before you come into the twist, really get the shoulders aligned first, so that when you align the shoulder girdle, there's a slight tilting of the pelvis forward, so you can really lengthen and lift from your pelvis. Then start to turn the pose from the pelvis, rather than just kind of crunching the shoulders back a little bit. See if there's that lift of the sits, or press of the sits bones down, the lift of the sternum up. Then start to rotate around yourself. And then again, find the tip of the left shoulder blade. See if you can turn it a little bit more to face the right collarbone. And then find the center of the chest. And then keep looking back, 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 back. Look back, but use your left eye to look over your right shoulder. Stay for one more full breath. Inhale. As you exhale, reach your right arm all the way up, and then turn all the way back to face the front. This time, just take both hands out in front of you, cross at the ankles, and then switch, come all the way around. Find your downward facing dog. So start to measure out through your down dog. Come into a plank pose first. I know Yvonne knows that, Becky. I'm not sure I've practiced with you. So make sure that when you measure your down dog, you're measuring it from a plank pose. So you're really knowing your measure well. And then from here, just come forward and back 3 times. So just moving a little bit. You can bend the knees as you come back, but really start to just find where you maybe need to wake up into the pose, where you maybe need to go into the pose, where you're not going. We always go into our joints where we find sort of the ease, but we also want to find the effort. And then on that last one, settle into your downward facing dog. Hold here for a breath. Press the hands down, straighten your arms and elbows. And then start to lift your heels just slightly away from the mat. And then see if you can turn your inner thighs in just slightly, but use the turning of your inner thighs to really press your thighs back to straighten your legs. Then maybe drop the heels down. Inhale, come forward for a plank pose. We're going to lower all the way onto your belly. Come into Sphinx pose. Untuck your toes, straighten your legs, and point your toes back. Come on to your forearms. That's it. And then walk the forearms out just in front of you. If you want to measure the distance of your arms and your shoulders, take your right forearm, or take your right hand to your left forearm, and then just kind of see if that's a measurement. It should be about the measurement of your collarbones from the right and to the left, and then turn your right palm back. Spread your hands evenly and well, and then really push down into the center of the forearms to feel that slight lift of the shoulders and ears away from the mat. And the navel may start to lift up a little bit just slightly from the mat. Think that your pubic bone points down, but it also lifts your sternum forward and up to widen your collarbone side to side. And then find the tips of your shoulder blades again. Really push the tips of your shoulder blades forward into your collarbones to widen your chest. And the gaze can just naturally come out in front of you or can come down towards your thumbs. From here, stay, we're gonna find a little bit of heat. Tuck your toes, press your heels back to begin to straighten your knees. Come into a forearm plank from here. Heels back, reach the crown of the head forward. And then really start to use the inner thighs, spin the inner thighs in and up to really get the whole body involved. Look forward, but don't just use the sides of your neck. Look forward from your pubic bone, your sternum, and your chest. Come onto your hands, come into a plank pose. Hips up and back, downward facing dog. Really good work. Take a big breath in, exhale, breath out. Inhale, lift your right leg to the sky. Exhale, pull your right knee and set your right foot to your right thumb. Right away, drop your back knee down and untuck your toes. Low crescent lunge. Reach your arms forward and up. Really good. And then take your hands back and behind you. Interlace your hands with the webbing, but don't just pull the arms down today. Take your interlacing of your hands. Try first to get your wrist creases to touch, and then start to walk your hands up to your low back just slightly. Allow your elbows to splay out towards the side to really open and widen through the collarbones. That's it. And then Yvonne, move your right knee a little bit more so that the center of the knee is coming over the center of the foot. Yes, that's it. And then see if you can lift your left frontal hip point up so you're really finding yourself at your center. Yeah, push more into the right big toe so you're getting a little bit more stable. Yes, that's it. Then start to straighten the arms, but only if it feels comfortable in the body today. Straighten your arms to lift your chest a little bit more. That's it. Stay for one more breath. Exhale, set the hands down. Tuck your back toes, lift your back knee up. Step straight back to plank pose again. Lower all the way down. Find your Sphinx pose. Straighten your legs, point your toes back. Come onto the forearms. Press down through the center of the forearms to lift your chest up. Think your pubic bone draws forward and up. And allow your tailbone to come back and down, but really keep the lower body engaged. Turn your inner thighs in and up towards the ceiling. So it's really an active back bend. Come into forearm plank where again, you can stay in Sphinx. Tuck the toes, lift your knees up, then press the heels back to lift up. Draw the front of the rib cage in and up, look forward, look out. Come into plank pose, hands down, shoulders stacked, hips up and back, down dog. Take a breath in, open the mouth, exhale, let it out. Left side, inhale, lift your left leg up and back. Exhale, knee to nose. Step your left foot to your left thumb, and then drop your back knee down, untuck your toes. Low crescent lunge, reaching your arms forward and up. Good, take your hands behind your back. Interlace your hands the opposite way. And then again, really start with the wrist creases. Draw the wrist creases together to touch. Walk your hands up your low back. And then see if you can really almost imagine in your mind a hanger. And you want your head to kind of be the top of the hanger, the tips of the collarbones to be the sides of the hangers. So it's making a triangle. So notice if maybe one shoulder is off to one side, can you use the squeezing of the wrists together to find a little bit more of an equal lateral triangle on either side? Then if you can keep the hands together, start to straighten the arms down the back. Good, push into your left big toe. Think that the center of the left knee comes into the center of the foot, and then lift off your right thigh. Really think that the right thigh lengthens your sternum so it's a little bit more of a back bend. That's it. And then set your hands down, frame your front foot. Tuck your back toes, step straight back to plank pose again. Lower all the way down to your belly. Right away, Sphinx pose. Come onto your forearms, straighten your legs, point your toes. Push your forearms down. So now the body's like, aha, we remember. We may like it, we may not, right? So notice your circumstances, notice where your emotions go. And we don't want to really kind of feel in yoga. Yes, we're going to get sensation, but we also want to bring more awareness. So right away, tuck your toes in, lift, press your heels back to lift your knees up, and then push straight into Sphinx pose. Come up, plank pose, hips up and back, down dog. Take a full breath in through the nose and then open, exhale, let it out through the mouth. Lift your heels, bend your knees, look forward, step, hop, or jump to the top of the mat. Make two fists, slide the fists to the inner arches of the feet. Bend the knees a lot, and then ragdoll pose, opposite hand to opposite elbow. Push your feet down. Inhale, lift your chest off your thighs, stand up tall, come all the way up. Keep the frame of the hands, opposite hand to opposite elbow. Push your feet down, and then see if you can really notice your pelvis from here. I have a tendency to kind of over back bend in this, so use your feet to turn your pelvis on. Over exaggerate this just slightly. Take your toes, lift your toes up and off the mat, and then just start with your big toe. Press your big toe down. Think that the pressing of the big toe pressing down squeezes and internally rotates your thighs, almost like you're squeezing a block in between your thighs. And that internal rotation might actually send your butt out a little bit. And then spread your toes to the pinky toe edge of the foot. Think that that externally rotates your legs at the thigh and the pelvis. And then think that that tucks your tailbone a little bit more down and in, or it lengthens your buttock bone down towards your heels to allow your pubic bone to lift up towards your sternum. And if all of that's new information, we're finding neutral in the pelvis, okay? So just for a moment, really kind of over-exaggerate the tuck of the tailbone, and then come back so that your pubis is forward, your butt is back, almost like you're back bending into your pelvis and leaning back, and then find something in between those two shapes. And then release your hands down next to your hips. That's it. Turn your upper arm bone out of the shoulder to send your palms forward. Yeah, so good. Now spread your toes again. Spread your toe from the big toe all the way to the pinky toe, then press down into the center of the heel. And then just be aware of maybe where you go and where you don't go in your pelvis. So your pelvis is your whole pelvic joint, but it's also your thigh bone. So when we move with the feet or we move with the thighs, we're really turning the whole lower body on to lift and lengthen through the upper body. Inhale, reach your arms all the way up, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale and fold, Uttanasana. Take your hands, your shins, lift up halfway, look forward, look out, and then your choice, step or hop back to your first Chaturanga Dandasana. So you can lower down half or full, and then inhale to either baby cobra, or if you know it, upward facing dog. Exhale to downward facing dog. One breath holding down dog today. Take a full breath in, open the mouth, exhale, let it out. Inhale, lift your heels, bend your knees. Look forward, step, hop, or jump to the top of the mat. Take your hands to your shins. Look forward, lift up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Bend your knees a lot. Really fold from your hips and your pelvis as you fold. Inhale, bend your knees. Grab opposite hand to opposite elbow. Press your feet down. Inhale, lift up, come all the way up. Keep the arms at the hands at the elbows. Good, and then exhale, hands next to the hips. Two more just like that. Inhale, reach your arms all the way up. Exhale and fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, hands to shins, halfway lift. Your choice again, step, hop, or jump back, Chaturanga Dandasana. Up dog, inhale, down dog, exhale. Hold down dog, one breath. Press your hands and lift your shoulders away from the ground. Take a big breath in, exhale, let the breath out. Lift your heels, bend your knees, look forward, and then step, hop, or jump. Hands to shins, halfway lift. Exhale and fold. Bend your knees. Think your knees go forward and your butt bones move back. Then opposite hand to opposite elbow. Press your feet down to lift your chest. Think that your thighs move your chest up to stand up tall. That's it. Open your hips. Good. And then exhale, release your hands next to your hips. Last round. Inhale, reach your arms all the way up. Exhale and fold, Uttanasana. Hands to shins, halfway lift, really look forward and out. Keep your chin forward as you step or hop back to Chaturanga Dandasana. Upward facing dog on the breath in. Downward facing dog on the breath out. One breath again. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, breath out. Lift your heels, bend your knees. Look forward, step, hop, or jump to the top of the mat. Take your hands, your shins, lift up halfway. Exhale and fold. Bend your knees right away. Knees go forward, butt bone moves back. Opposite hand to opposite elbow. Use your feet, push your feet down, and then start to lift your thighs towards your torso, and then straighten your legs up and over. Good. Hands relax next to the hips. Good. From here, step your feet together, come into a mountain pose, and then turn to the left. Step your feet to the widest part of the mat, and we're going to come into a warrior two. Take your left big toe, turn your left big toe in, so points towards the corner of the left mat, and I like to have that left foot a little bit more at 45 degrees. And then lift your right heel up, bend your right knee, turn your leg out of the hip to send your toes forward, and then really go a little bit wider here, a little bit longer. So it's a really big external rotation of that front thigh. Good, and then from here, we're gonna switch up the arms a little bit, Yvonne. Take your right hand to the front of your pelvis. So you're really kind of noticing where your front pubic bone is, and then take your left hand back behind you to your tailbone. Turn your torso to the left. Put your brain in your right hand, so it's in front of your pelvis and your pubic bone. Think that your pubic bone moves up, and then think that your left hand, where your tailbone is, moves back and down. So you're really, as you do that, you're really finding that external rotation of the hips and the pelvis. And then keep your hands where they are. Turn the top of your left leg in and down, and then allow that top of the turn of the left leg in and down to move your right hip back into the hip socket a little bit more, to really turn your leg out a little bit more in the front. So it's really finding that external rotation. If you like your hands like this and it's really connecting you with alignment, keep them. If you want a little bit more traditional, take the hands out to your traditional warrior two. Then turn the gaze over the right middle finger. But keep that bend in the front knee. Try to get that front thigh nice and parallel. That's it. Stay for one more full breath in. As you exhale, push into your right big toe. Think that the outer right hip firms in to begin to straighten through the front leg. I like to step my left foot in. It's a little bit shorter stance from warrior two to triangle pose. Take your left hand to your right shin, and then reach your left hand straight up for triangle pose. You can have your hand on the block or on the ground. And then really plug your right hip back into the socket. Again, turn the top of your left leg in and down. Allow that to pull the right hip back a little bit more into the socket. And then rather than looking up, I want you to look forward towards your right big toe. Really put yourself in the center of the pose. And then think that the right shoulder moves a little bit more forward towards your big toe. As you do that, find again the tip of your right shoulder blade. Move the tip of your right shoulder blade to your left collarbone so that it starts to turn the pose at the shoulder girdle. Then start to turn the gaze up towards your left hand. Find the center of the chest. Again, find the tip of the right shoulder blade. Move it to your left collarbone. Find the center of the chest. As you start to lengthen, maybe you look up, but look up using your right eye. So really moving the pose all the way around. Stay for one more breath in. Push your feet down, come back to stand. Take your hands to your hips. Turn big toes back to face over towards the left side of your mat. That's it. And then we're going to switch sides. Take your right leg, turn your right foot a little bit more 45 degrees, and then bend your left knee, lift your left heel. Turn your leg out of the hip to send your toes forward, bend your left knee for warrior two. Then again, we're going to start with the pelvis today because we're moving a lot from the pelvis and the shoulder girdle. So this time, take your left hand to your low back, and then again, take your right hand to the front of your pubic bone. And then just for a moment, turn the torso to the right. Turn the torso to face the right leg. So right away, we're really kind of getting our alignment, head on top of the shoulders, shoulders on top of the hips. And then think that your pubic bone lifts up into your right hand. And then allow your left hand to draw your tailbone back and down. And then keep turning the pose a little bit more to the right. Bend a little bit more into the left knee so the left knee tracks on top of the heel. Keep the hands if you want them, or reach them out to a more traditional warrior two. Gaze over your left middle finger. Keep pushing into your heels. Push your heels down. Push your heels away from one another. Stay for one more full breath in. As you exhale, start to straighten through your left leg. Step your right foot in just slightly, so you're shortening the stance of your triangle pose. And you can look down and make sure that the heels are aligned with one another. So the left heel aligns with the back heel. From here, push into your left big toe and start to firm your outer left hip in. So it's really the quadricep that lifts up to the hip. And as you pull that left hip back to the hip socket, turn your left thigh in and down to hinge from the hip, coming into triangle pose. And I'm gonna come look and see how we're doing. Good. So start to turn the pose again. Look forward at your left big toe. Yes, that's it. So before you even turn the pose, really turn the pose from the pelvis first and then rotate from the torso, just like when we started in our twist. Pull your tip of your left shoulder blade into your chest. Think it goes up to your right collarbone, making an X in the center of your chest. That's it. Then maybe start to turn the gaze up, 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 up. So you're looking up, but move around yourself to get all the way around the pose. That's it. Stay for one more breath. Push into your feet. Straighten your legs. Stand up. Take your hands to your hips. Turn your feet back to parallel. And then step your feet together. Come all the way back to the front of the mat. That's it. Tree pose. Shift the weight into your left foot. Hug your right knee in. And then take your right foot either above or below the knee for Vrikshasana tree pose. I've been going just a little bit lower in my tree practice lately, just to kind of really even out through the pelvis and kind of notice where the pelvis is in alignment. So see if you can really use the visualization of the pelvis as the pelvis, but also the thigh. So it's a whole pelvic girdle that we're really focusing on bringing awareness to. Push your left foot down. Think that your left thigh presses back towards the back of the room or the back of your mat. And then anywhere the hands want to be. You can frame up again, opposite hand to opposite elbow. So when you frame up your hands, you're really giving yourself a frame of reference. So you can visualize where the body is, where the points of the body are, almost like your own personal map or your own personal territory. And so find the right buttock bone. Visualize the right buttock bone, making an imaginary line to the front of your left pelvic bone. Right buttock bone to the front of your left pelvic bone. And then feel where your left buttock bone is. Use an imaginary line. All of this with your imagination. Left buttock bone to the front of the right pelvic bone. Really making an X in the center of the pelvis. And then stay for one more breath. Get long through all four sides of the torso. Draw your right knee in. Set your right foot down. Release your hands down next to your hips. Set up on the second side. Shift the weight into your right foot. Then left foot can come above or below the knee. If you like the frame, frame up. Opposite hand to opposite elbow. Think that your hands move the elbows out a little bit more, so you're creating more space through the armpits and the shoulders and the collarbones. And then use that visualization of the pelvis, and we're going to travel up from the pelvis to the shoulders this time. Find your right buttock bone. Think that there's an imaginary line from your right buttock bone to the front of your left pelvic bone. Find your left buttock bone. Imagine there's an imaginary line from your left buttock bone to the front of your right pelvic bone. X in the center of the pelvis. And then find the tips of your shoulder blades. Think that the tip of your right shoulder blade moves across and around to the front of your left collarbone. Find the tip of your left shoulder blade. Imagine there's a line that travels around the back and around to the front of your right collarbone, making an X in the center of the chest. And then think that pelvic, your perineum presses down to lift a little bit more through the crown of the head. So you're really finding equilibrium through the body. And then release the left knee, pull it back, set your foot down, relax your hands all the way down. Good. If you stepped off, step a little bit more towards the top of the mat. Inhale, reach your arms all the way up. Exhale, and fold Uttanasana. Take your hands to your shins, lift up halfway. Your choice to flow or not flow. Step, hop, or jump back to chaturanga. Meet me in a downward facing dog. On an inhale, lift your right leg to the sky. Exhale, step your right foot to your right thumb. Take your hands just a little bit wider than the mat, and then really use your chest. Take your chest on top of your thigh. Actually, relax your chest completely on top of your front thigh. Think that your right knee draws your torso and your sternum forward, but really anchor into your left heel. Lift your torso a little bit more, Yvonne. So think about your pubic bone is lengthening and lifting your sternum forward, so it's a little bit more of a back bend. That's it. And then anchor your left heel right directly on top of the ball of the foot. Come into a high lunge. Lift your chest off of the thigh. That's it. Big toe, push it down. Yes. Good. So from here, if you're a little bit unstable, I want you to bend into your left knee. Think that your pubic bone lifts you up and your tailbone draws you back and down, and then begin to re-straighten the left leg. That's it. Stay here for one more breath. Keep bending into the front knee, but keep the chest lifted. Keep the chest lifted even more. Stay for one more breath. Good. And then drop your hands down, frame your front foot again. This time, release your back knee down to the ground. Allow it to be kind of an aha moment. Good. And then from here, you can use blocks underneath the hands for this. You may want to have your strap. I think you can bind for this. So we're going to go into low lunge bind, but if you want your blocks, I like to see a little bit more lifted to lift my chest up a little bit more. So for this, as we come into this pose, I want you to first start by taking your right foot out a little bit more. If in front of you was 12 o'clock, you're going to walk your right foot over towards 2 o'clock, and you're going to angle your heel in and your toe out to really face a little bit more over towards 2 o'clock. So move it out, 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 out to the right. More, Yvonne. More. Off. You can even have the heel on the edge of the mat and the toes out. Yeah, it's going to give you more room in the pelvis. Good. Then take both blocks to the inside of your right foot. Good. So from here, we're going to come down onto our form. So you can use the blocks for this, or you can come all the way down if you're feeling really open today. But I don't want you to just collapse. I want you to really use the left thigh. So there's a lifting up and away from the ground with the left thigh to really find the back bend. Think Sphinx pose in the chest to pull yourself forward and up. So we don't want to kind of collapse onto the left side. We really want to lift the left thigh up and away from the ground. That's going to help our pelvis move a little bit more forward. So it's like a Sphinx pose, but we're going to come eventually into the quad stretch. Yeah, that's it. Good. So keep the right foot. You can even go wider with your right foot, heel and toe out, even wider to give yourself more space. That's it. So staying on the forearms, really use the forearms as resistance. Push your forearms down to lift your chest away from the ground, but keep the gaze out, 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 out. Yes, I know. And if you're like me, there's no air circulation where I am. So the sweat is actually helpful in this pose because it keeps moving you forward and even more forward. And then really lengthen your pubic bone forward towards 12 o'clock. Think your tailbone moves back towards 6 o'clock. Stay for one more breath. Keep your left forearm onto the block. Pick up your right hand. Take your right hand to the top of your right knee. Right hand at the top of the right knee. So fit it more like a glove, hand on top of that right knee. Yeah. So from here, we're going to start to turn the pose. Again, don't just turn the pose from the torso and chest. Look forward in front of you towards 12 o'clock. Think that your pubis moves forward towards 12 o'clock. And then find the tip of your left shoulder blade. Turn the tip of the left shoulder blade to open up your right collarbone. Find the center of the chest. And then use that to start to move and bring you around a little bit more. So from here, if you want to move into the quad stretch, bend into your left knee. Now, right hand can come and grab the left ankle and really try to go for the ankle. If you have your strap, you can also use the strap here. Yeah. Good. And then really turn the pose from the tip of that left shoulder blade. Good. Lift up more from your left thigh. So think the left thigh moves away from the ground. That's going to give you more space in the low back and the sacrum. Lift up more from that left thigh to turn your right leg out a little bit more towards 2 o'clock. That's it. That's it. Good. Stay for one more breath in. Exhale. Release the left foot. Take your hands on the blocks just for balance. Come up onto the arms, straight arms, and then tuck your back toes, lift your back knee up. Wiggle your right foot again back to the center of the mat, bend your right knee. Take your blocks off to the side, step back to plank pose. Lower all the way to your belly. Come into Sphinx pose onto the forearms. Straighten your legs, point your toes back, and really turn on your lower body from here. Think that your pubic bone presses down, but you're also lifting your pubic bone forward to draw your tailbone back and down. Spin your inner thighs in and up, and that might slightly lift the knees, and that's okay. Think that that turn of the inner thighs in and up moves your hips a little bit wider. So there's also an opening of the hips out to create more space through the low back and the lumbar spine. Stay for one more breath. Inhale. This time, exhale. Pull the arms out towards the front. Lower just for a moment onto your forehead. And then stay for a breath. Walk your legs in to touch. Walk your legs in to touch. From here, we're going to take our hands straight next to our sides, and we're going to come into locust pose. We're going to interlace our hands at our low back. Take your elbow, take your arm, hands next to your glass down. You got a glass down. Go take your hands. Yeah, you got it. Good. Walk your hands up your low back, and then really pull your elbows out towards the side. That's it. So from here, zip your legs up a little bit more. I'm going to come look. Good. Come into Sphinx pose by pressing your pelvis down. Lift your chest forward and up. That's it. And then maybe start to straighten the arms down the back. And you can lift the feet up off the mat just a little bit. Spin your inner thighs in and up to lift your legs up. That's it. Press your buttock bone back towards your heels and keep lifting your chest up, 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 up. Stay for one more breath. So, so, so good. Exhale, lower it all the way down. Good. Take your hands underneath your shoulders. Press back just to transition to a child's pose. Torso to thighs. Roll over onto one hip. Send both legs out around in front of you. Both legs out around in front of you. Good. So from here, if you have a block, grab it. Take a block in between the thighs. I like to take it on the highest. That's it. And we're just going to work here a little bit with this internal rotation action. So we can come into a reverse plank pose, or you can go for full Purvottanasana inclined plane. Take your hands, fingertips point towards the front of the mat. Put a little bend into the elbows. And then from here, start with the knees bent. Push your feet down, but don't lift your hips up yet. Give the block a big squeeze. Really roll the inner thighs in, and then push your feet down, start to lift your hips up for an inclined table pose. Look at your block. Squeeze the thighs in, but lift up to the center of the glutes. Then if you want to, you can walk one leg out at a time. The hips might lower a little bit, and then use that squeeze of the block in to lift your buttock bone up for full inclined plane Purvottanasana. Beautiful. The gaze can come back. Push your hands down, lift your shoulders away from the ground. That's it. Stay for one more breath. Point the toes. Exhale, chin into chest. Try to be controlled. Lower, come all the way down. Yeah. So fun. Take a big breath in. Exhale, breath out. Ditch the block off to the side. And then just transition. You can cross the ankle, step, or hop back if you want a quick flow. I know you like to get your push-ups in, Yvonne, so if you want to do quick couple rounds of push-ups. This is our second to last final flow. So feel free to take a little bit, notch up or down if you want. And then we'll meet back in the next 2 breaths. One more breath in. Exhale, breath out. Left leg. Lift your left leg up and back. Exhale, step your left foot to your left thumb. Take your hands wide a little bit, almost really touching the outside of the mat. And again, bend your left knee, look forward towards the top of the mat. Really allow your torso to rest on top of your thigh. Think that your left knee moves forward, but as you do that, it brings the sternum and chest forward. Really anchor your right heel back. Think that your right heel presses back to move your left knee forward. Then reach the arms forward and up for a high lunge. Good, put a micro bend into the right knee. That's it, and then allow the pubic bone to come forward and up. Allow the sternum to lift up, and then allow the tailbone to come back and down. Keep that lift of the chest from the pelvis. Then straighten the right leg back to really anchor in and down. So strong. Good, keep firming the outer thighs in. Stay, one more breath. Exhale, set your hands down. Drop your back knee down, untuck your back toes. And then again, take your blocks. You probably want them on the second side. From here, think that 12 o'clock is in front of you. Turn your left big toe out a little bit more. So your left foot is gonna inch out a little bit more so it's facing towards 9 o'clock if it were on a clock, or actually rather 10 o'clock more. Heel in, the toes out. That's it. My side on my left side is always a little bit trickier. So the blocks might have to come up a layer, right? So notice if you need to stay, or if you can go back onto the forearms, just like you did on that first side. Come down onto the forearms, think Sphinx pose in the chest. Forearms press down to lift your chest up and away from the ground. So there's this action of lifting the chest, really lifting the shoulders and ears away from the mat, but we also want to find a little bit more of that back bend. So think that you're taking your torso forward, but you're not just looking forward, you're really lengthening your pubic bone forward, your sternum forward, and then your chest comes forward. So there's a lifting of the forward and up when you come into this pose. And then really lengthen and lift your right thigh a little bit away from the ground. And that right thigh lifting away from the ground is gonna lift your left buttock bone so it comes maybe in line a little bit more with the shoulder. Stay for one more breath. Take your right forearm, keep it pressing down onto the block or onto the ground, and then take your left hand to your left knee. Yeah, that's it. Good, so before you turn to the pose, look forward, imagine and see where 12 o'clock is, and then start to turn your right shoulder a little bit more towards 12 o'clock. Find the tip of your right shoulder blade, open it up to your left collarbone. Find an X in the center of your chest. And then keep turning the pose. So with this, we have more control in the pelvis, in the shoulders, so we can move the whole body. We want that stability in the lower body, so we can find a little bit more of that ability in the chest, then to get the vision up, or maybe look back. Come into the bind and the quad stretch by bending into the right knee, left hand to right ankle. Really try to go for the ankle here if you can. And that might mean that you have to lift the right thigh away from the ground. Lift it more. Right thigh away from the ground. It's counterintuitive, yeah. So when you lift the right thigh up, you're giving yourself space in the sacrum to then turn the tip of the right shoulder blade to the left collarbone. Finding that X in the center of the chest. That's it. And then move around yourself and around yourself so you're not getting in your own way. Take a full breath in. Release the bind. And then take your hands back to the blocks just for leverage. Walk your left foot back to the middle. And then take your back toes, tuck your back toes, lift your back knee up. Blocks to the side. Come down to come up to a plank pose. Have your left foot to meet your right. Hold your plank. Lower all the way onto your pelvis. Straighten your legs, point your toes back. Interlace your hands behind your low back. This time, keep your hands closer towards your tailbone since we're plenty warm. And then from here, bow pose, Urdhva Dhanurasana if you'd like. Bend your knees, heels come to the buttock bones. Maybe the hands now come around both heels, the ankles. That's it. Pull your knees in. Think that your pubis presses down, but your pubic bone lifts you forward and up to lift the chest up, 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 up. press your hands back into your heels. And then slowly internally rotate your thighs to lift your thighs away from the ground. Stay for one more breath. Think that your shoulder blades move forward into your collarbones to widen your chest. Exhale slowly. Try not to slingshot. Release your feet, release your hands. And then just take a little rest, hands down. Rest your forehead down. You can shimmy out the hips a little bit, side to side. Take a breath in. Exhale, breath out. And slide your hands under your shoulders. Press back, just again to transition to a child's pose. And then we're gonna roll onto one hip. Send both legs out around in front of you. So we're gonna come into bridge pose, and then we're gonna come into camel pose. I always like to tell people so that we're like, when we're on our back, you know you're not committed, right? Take your strap. If you have a strap, if not, you can just use your shins. Take your strap around the center of your shins. And actually, if you want to watch, I think you've done this with me, Yvonne, but if you want to watch again, feel free to. I love this because it really gives me more leverage to use the thighs to spin to then open. So I'm going to start on my back. I'm going to walk my heels in. I want to imagine a line from my knee to the center of my heel. So from here, I'm going to walk my heels back a little bit more. And then I'm going to drop my head down, really using the tips of my shoulder blades. So we've done a lot with the shoulder girdle and the pelvic girdle today. Taking your hands with the strap, I'm going to really kind of draw the tips of my shoulder blades in and down so that I can really get my opening up at my tops of my shoulders to get my biceps up and my triceps back and down a little bit more so I have more leverage. Because when we open up our pelvis, we also have to open up through our thoracic spine. I'm going to push my feet down. I'm going to lift my hips up. From here, I'm going to think that my shins move forward into the strap. And then I have a little bit more leverage to walk my hands down to get my shoulder blades underneath my chest, my torso. Then I'm going to spin my inner thighs in and down to lift up through the center of my glutes. So it's a back bend, but I'm also really, really using my upper thoracic spine. Then I'm going to come all the way back down. So play with that variation. Come down. And Becky, if this is new to you, really try to use the strap as a good boundary. When you come up, you're going to really push your shins in to the strap. And then you can use the strap as leverage to really open up the tops of your shoulder blades. Yeah, that's it. So pretty, Yvonne. And then yeah, use the tips of the shoulder blades to really come a little bit closer together so you can push the shoulder blades up into the chest to widen the collarbones, and then really use the inner thighs, bring the inner thighs in and down to lift up through the center of the glutes. So pretty. So, so, so pretty. Good. Stay for one more breath whenever you're ready. And then come all the way down. Probably one of the better back bends I've seen. Yeah, so good. Hug your knees into your chest. And then either your choice, roll forward and back, forward and back. If you want to take one final flow, here's your chance. And we're going to meet on our shins. Meet on our shins for a final camel pose. Good. So final flow if you want. Becky, I can't see, but if you want to flow, flow. And then from here, we're going to use just a block on either side of our feet. If you have two blocks, if you just have one, that's fine. You can also just do this without. Blocks on either side of the feet. We're going to come to sit onto our shins. So just leave the blocks next to the heels and the ankles. Start by tucking the toes in. Camel pose. Start with your hands to the low back. And then right away, kind of notice that same movement that we did in our Tadasana, where our pelvis has this tendency to kind of tilt one way or another. It's an anterior tilt or posterior tilt. So just kind of notice where you are. When we're opening up through our pelvis, we're really going to start to come into that anterior tilt, or the pelvis is like a wheel where it's going to move us back, 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 back. From here, hands on the low back just to start. Then you can start to walk one hand on the block and the other. Roll your inner thighs in. And think that your buttock bone presses towards the front of your mat. That's it. And then lift your pubic bone forward and up Think that your tailbone goes back and down to back and a little bit more. And then maybe start to tilt the gaze back, 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 back. Hands can come to the ankles if you want. Stay full breath in. As you exhale, maybe stick out the tongue. Tuck the chin into the chest. Slowly release the hands off the blocks, hands to the low back. Untuck your toes. Sit back onto your heels. Good. Take your blocks off to the side. Grab a hold of your strap. Roll onto one hip. Send your legs forward and then lay all the way back down. So we're going to come right away into Supta Padangusthasana. It's a really nice way to lengthen and come back to a neutral spine. Take your left leg straight. If you have low back issues or feeling tense, you can put your left foot onto the ground, keep your left knee bent. Take the strap around the right sole of the foot. Supta Padangusthasana. And anywhere the hands want to be, just allow this to feel restorative. Hands can be just on either side. You can really release the tips of the shoulder blades down and in. Keep internally rotating your right thigh a little bit more. And then allow that internal rotation of the right thigh to externally rotate the left hip a little bit more. So there's that really spreading of the pelvis at the sacrum to come back to a neutral spine after back bending. And then keep that right heel directly on top of the right buttock bone. Allow this to feel restorative. Stay for one more breath in. Exhale, full breath out. And then take the strap just into the right hand. Allow the right leg to come out towards the side. And I like to take a block and put the block underneath my right thigh, the outer part of my right thigh. So it's really a little bit more passive. Option to straighten the left arm, or you can cactus the left arm. As you inhale, engage the abdominal shoulder from the ribcage in and down. Lift the right leg up. Lift the left leg up to meet it. Same series on the second side. Either right foot into the ground, you can bend the right knee, or lengthen and straighten the right leg. And again, anywhere the hands want to be with a strap around the left ball of the foot. So you can internally rotate the top of the left thigh, externally rotate the top of the right thigh. The legs are moving in opposition here. So you can really spread through the low back at the sacrum. And then find the breath. Breathe in through the front of the body, back of the body, left and right, up and down. Exhale, feel like you're coming back at the center. And then take the strap into the left hand. Take the leg over into the left side. You can even take that block again. Place it and tuck it underneath the left thigh. So you really release a little bit more to find that space. Allow yourself just to settle in, find the ease and the effort in this pose. Take one more breath. Engage the abdominals as you draw the leg back up, draw the front of the ribcage in and down. This time, bend the left knee. Take the strap just off to the side. So option here to come with the knees into the chest. We're going to end as we began with that reclined twist. Take your knees to the left, gaze to the right. And then again, feel free to give yourself that self-adjustment, left hand on top of the right thigh. As you turn the gaze to the right, if you want to stretch a little bit more. And then inhale, knees through center. Exhale, drop the knees to the right. Turn the gaze to the left. Stretch the arm out. Again, right hand to left thigh if you want to get a little bit more leverage. more of a self-adjustment. And when you're ready, knees through center. And then option for legs up the wall, or you can have your legs if you have, I see a chair for you, Yvonne, if you have a wall, Becky, or a chair, if you're next to a bed, sometimes that's nice. Or you can come into traditional Shavasana, but I do encourage taking legs up the wall, mostly because it really is going to help the back come back to neutral alignment after a back bending practice. So feel free to find a place maybe that feels more comfortable for you. And then allow yourself to come into final rest and ease in these last few moments of practice. Allow your eyes to close. And then maybe just scanning the body from the head to the toes, being aware of perhaps where you opened today. Where you created more space, or maybe just freed up something physically or mentally in the body.